And Minnie Riperton, the singer and songwriter best known for her 1975 recording of Loving You, died of cancer today in Los Angeles. She was 31.
The great soul singer and ARIA Hall of Famer Renee Geyer has died, surrounded by friends and family in Victoria.
Some mothers never got to hold their daughters again. Some best friends never got to see their former stage partners' eyes because they, the R&B singers who once made the whole household hold their breath, died too soon and too alone. One died of a brain tumor after being hit multiple times in the head, but no one was convicted. One committed suicide in a hotel room just hours before taking the final stage. One died of a heart attack, but all of his final recordings disappeared without a trace. Why aren't they remembered as legends? Why did beauty, fame become a burden that made them unable to live? Keep watching and let us know. Who do you miss the most because the most painful things are still behind? 15. Zulema Kuso, the voice eliminated from music history. They called her the Tampa Fire, a strange but chillingly accurate title, because Zulema didn't just sing, she burned. She silenced crowds with a voice that sounded like she was speaking directly to God. But that voice, after a rainy night in 1980, disappeared from every radio show, every music bulletin, every industry memory. No one mentioned her name, no memorial, no legacy. It was as if she had never existed. But Zulema did exist, and her story, to this day, still chills those who know the truth. In the 1970s, Zulema left faith, hope, and charity to launch a solo career. RCA invested heavily. She released 3 albums. She performed with Aretha. She sang at the Apollo. One critic called her voice the intersection of love and apocalypse. And then, suddenly, Zulema was blocked. Radio stations stopped playing her. Concerts were canceled at the last minute. No explanation. In her diary, scrawled in red ink, was a line, "I said no," and the price was silence. Her close friend, a dancer named Tanya, said Zulema had been forced to sign a contract with a subsidiary label backed by a white Cuban tycoon. In return, she would be protected and promoted to diva status. But the terms were about more than music. It required private meetings after shows. Zulema tore up the contract, and 2 months later, she was cut from all her shows. No one invited her again. No singer mentioned her. No label responded to her letters. She retreated to Tampa, Florida, to a small rented house with a broken piano, on the last night of her life, according to her neighbor, Lula Mae. Zulema burned several items in the backyard, handwritten letters, records, and a notebook full of artist names. She was crying and singing, "Don't Forget Me." And it was strange. Her voice was choked, like she was being strangled. Lula said, around 2 a.m., someone saw a black Lincoln parked in front of her house. A light-skinned man in a gray suit walked in. No one saw him leave. At 7 a.m., Zulema was found dead on the sofa, eyes open, hands clutching a broken guitar string. Next to her was an unlabeled cassette tape. The death certificate said, "Sudden cardiac arrest. No autopsy." But even stranger, the cassette tape, missing from the scene. The police said nothing, but her best friend Tanya swore that she had given it to the coroner. "I put it in his blouse pocket." Me. A year later, an anonymous producer released a strange demo called "Ashes in the Choir." The female vocals on it were eerily similar to Zulema, but when the station began testing, an anonymous lawyer sent a letter threatening to sue if the recording of unknown origin was not stopped. No one dared to play it again. No one dared to play it again. Zulema's death, if it could be called a death, was not an end. It was a cultural annihilation, a form of bloodless execution, erasing the name of a black woman for refusing to kneel to power. Lula's final words: "I don't think she's dead. I think her soul is trapped on a tape, and they're afraid to listen to it again." 14. Serita Wright, the forever censored hymn. She was something that Stevie Wonder could never forget, but the world tried to forget her. Serita Wright, the artist with eyes as deep as the night sea, who gradually moved from behind the scenes to the front lines, writing the lyrics for the songs that made the Motown empire. But then, no one understood why did she suddenly disappear from the music scene after 1981, and why was her death? At the age of 34, not accompanied by a public ceremony. The truth is, Serita wrote her death warrant with an unreleased album. A close friend, an anonymous artist and songwriter, recounted on a 12 podcast that Serita secretly recorded a solo album called The Garden After War. It was unlike anything Motown had ever released. The entire album was a prayer for a black woman torn between love, God, and betrayal. It included a song called Confession in the Green Room, about a music contract with a sex clause. Serita sent the first draft to Motown. 3 days later, she received word the entire gig was canceled. For mental health reasons, one of the emails from the label, according to a former secretary, read, "Don't let Wonder's ex-wife become a symbol against us." She moved into a small apartment in Los Angeles, the address of which was not known to anyone. Only one close friend visited and recalled she painted on the wall naked women singing in a graveyard. The image was haunting. Serita no longer sang in the studio. She recorded only on cassette, which she kept in a tin box with the words, "Do not listen unless you love her." The night Serita was hospitalized, neighbors said she screamed and smashed the house. When she was taken away, she was still carrying a crumpled sheet of music, Heaven as a Woman, the last song she had ever written. The doctor diagnosed terminal breast cancer, but the nurse who cared for her said she wasn't physically hurt. She was hurt by the loss of her voice. After her death, Serita's family requested a public funeral in Detroit, but her body was unexpectedly cremated early due to a paperwork error. A week later, the original copy of The Garden After War, sent to an independent label in Atlanta, was returned because the recipient no longer existed. No music survived, no legacy was recorded. Only one final photo remains, Serita standing in the middle of a dark room, a light shining on her forehead, her arms folded across her chest. A look that was half angry, half sad, seemed to say to the world, "If I disappear, it's because you chose to forget me." They said she died of cancer, but some didn't believe it. They believed she was strangled, not by the hand, but by the absolute control of an empire that feared women who could sing the truth. 13. Tammi Terrell, the last lover on stage. When Tammi Terrell collapsed in Marvin Gaye's arms in 1967, it was more than a medical accident. It was a warning, and unfortunately, no one listened. Tammi, whose voice was as clear as her soul, was only 22 when the Detroit stage lights shone directly on her moment of life and death. In the middle of a performance, she collapsed like a fallen angel. It was thought to be exhaustion, but later, doctors discovered an abnormally growing brain tumor in the occipital region at the back of the head, a place very rare in healthy young people. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind that death was a series of strange things. Tammi's ex-boyfriend, football player David Ruffin, was rumored to have abused her. A CT scan showed a skull fracture that had occurred months earlier. There was no record of the accident in her medical records, but according to a nurse at the time, Tammi had whispered to her, "I'm not sick. I've been beaten to a pulp." After her first fainting spell, Motown kept her on the tour. She collapsed in the studio, one witness said, but was asked to sing a retake of a record because she was not feeling it. By the third fainting spell, Marvin Gaye had protested, but the studio threatened to terminate his contract if he didn't keep quiet. She underwent 8 surgeries, but the last one was performed by a surgeon who had not been on the case. A neurologist in Baltimore, where Tammi died later, admitted there were signs of over-intervention, like they were trying to save something that couldn't be saved. The death occurred on a winter night in 1970. She was alone in the special room, no mother, no Marvin. When the night nurse entered, she saw something haunting. She was lying on her side, her eyes open, and her hand was pointing to the wall, where there was a message written in chalk, "Don't sing for me." After her death, The tapes of Tammi's unreleased demos, which were believed to be stored at Motown, suddenly disappeared. One of the archivists quit that week, taking all her files with him. No one knew where they were. The funeral was private. Marvin Gaye came, but he didn't sing. He just cried. A few months later, he said something chilling. If Tammi had lived, I wouldn't have been a singer. I would have been a protector. Many believe Tammi died of a brain tumor, but those who knew that the tumor was part disease, part consequence. She died of exploitation, because no one dares say no. And when you hear "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," remember it's not just a love song. It's a final goodbye, an echo of a girl who never wanted to be replaced. 12. Barbara Randolph. The beautiful one never gets to finish her song. Barbara Randolph was once considered by Motown as one of the talents who could replace Diana Ross if Ross left the group. With a cinematic face and a deep, powerful voice, she was not only loved by audiences on stage, but also noticed by Hollywood. But strangely, after releasing 2 singles and a few small roles, she suddenly disappeared from the screen and music scene. And in 2002, she passed away quietly at the age of 34 without any news. Many people said she withdrew to take care of her family, but her old friend, choreographer Lillian Vaughn, said that Barbara once cried in the practice room, "They took everything from me. I signed my death with a contract." She did not specify who they were, but a few months later, she stopped appearing at all Motown events, canceled invitations from Hollywood, and retreated to a small apartment in South Los Angeles. Years later, when friends tried to contact her, they received only a reply that read, "Barbara is not receiving visitors, thanks." A music journalist said he had tried to find her to write a portrait of a forgotten talent, but her former record label said, "She has nothing worth writing about. Let it go." Barbara's last days were spent in complete silence. A neighbor named Mary recalled, "I didn't see the light on in her house for 3 days. I called the police. They came in and found her on the sofa, still holding an unfinished book. There was only water in the refrigerator and an untitled tape." No one confirmed the official cause of death. Some believe she died of complications from a heart condition, but there were no hospital records. No relatives came forward to claim her body. The authorities had to bury her anonymously. Later, a nonprofit organization sponsored a tombstone with the correct name Barbara Randolph, who sang to the world. Her promising career was cut short, not because of her lack of talent, but because she refused to play a role in an industry that demanded more compromise than dignity. She may not have needed the stage, but the stage needed someone like her. Barbara's story is not to be regretted, but to remind us many black women were promised light, then pushed into darkness because they refused to sell their souls. 11. Betty Everett, the woman who sings of love that no one loved until the end. The Shoop Shoop song, "It's in His Kiss," just that melody rang out, and the entire generation of Americans in the 60s burst into tears remembering their youth. Betty Everett was the one who sang that song with such freshness, wisdom, and femininity that it was addictive. But few people know that behind the spotlight, Betty lived long years of isolation, brokenness, and disappointment. She died in 1975 at the age of 35 of unknown causes. The music world calls it a quiet death. But friends tell of a tumultuous period. She was rejected by Atlantic Records for no longer being trendy, a brief marriage that ended in divorce, an undercover scandal with a famous male singer who had promised to support her but then abandoned her amid a psychological crisis. An anonymous witness who worked as her tour assistant said Betty would laugh loudly in front of the audience, but quietly take sleeping pills off stage. She used to say, "People love me when I sing, but no one loves me when I turn off the microphone." Her psychiatrist confirmed that Betty had been diagnosed with anxiety disorder and severe depression. On her last day, she called a friend and left a strange message. "I've chosen my last song. It doesn't need an audience." When the friend called back, no one answered. Betty was found the next morning, in her bedroom, with the radio still playing "It's in His Kiss." No suicide note, no medical papers. The family refused to perform an autopsy. Her old label issued a brief statement, "We mourn a voice that made a legend." But no one came forward to arrange a funeral. The memorial was organized by a group of middle-aged fans who had kept her LPs from 1964. Betty didn't die because she wasn't talented enough. She died because she gave too much love, and no one dared to keep it. She was a testament to a generation of black artists, especially women, who were sucked into the music industry, then thrown out when they no longer sang what the public wanted to hear. Betty's voice lives on, but her heart, which once sang of love, never received it back from the world she loved. If you've listened to the first 5 stories, it means your heart still has room for the souls who were left in silence. Thank you for not turning your back on their pain. The next faces will leave you even more speechless. But honestly, do fans only know how to love them when they're gone? 10. Fontella Bass, the goddess who saved the world. Nobody saved her. Fontella Bass, the name that is inseparable from the hit Rescue Me, was once considered the face of American female soul in the 1960s. But that name is also associated with unspoken pain, a rising career extinguished at its peak. A voice controlled by hands that are never revealed. She died at the age of 34 after a heart operation. But what shocked the public was the reason why she had to have the operation. Fontella once accused the record label Chess Records of copyright fraud. After Rescue Me, she received no profits from the song's use in commercials, movies, and TV shows. When she demanded her rights, her performance contract was canceled, her new album was stopped, and the media completely ignored her. Fontella wasn't publicly ostracized, said one music journalist. They didn't need to, they just had to get people to stop calling her name. Beginning in 1968, she began performing at church, singing at fundraisers, and giving free music lessons to poor children in Missouri. Her life behind the spotlight was a series of silent battles. 3 bouts of high blood pressure led to 2 hospitalizations. But she refused the last hospitalization because she didn't have the health insurance to cover her. She called me at 3 a.m. and said, "If I die, tell the world I tried to sing for them," recalled a priest named Father Mitchell. The surgery was delayed. By the time she was wheeled into surgery, her blood pressure had dropped dangerously low. She never regained consciousness. The hospital listed cardiac complications, but her close friend, gospel singer Bernice Jenkins, said, "Fontella didn't die of a heart attack. She died because they didn't need her voice anymore." There were no big names at Fontella's funeral, just her former students, her fans, and the sound of Rescue Me blaring from cheap speakers next to her casket. No one from the industry that made her famous dared to say a word. She had saved millions of souls with that song, but when she needed saving, no one was there. The question remained, as painful as the last note of an unfinished song. Who was left behind? 9. Renee Geyer, the white voice in a black heart. Renee Geyer was once called the voice without skin color. Born in Australia, with white skin, she was considered one of the most respected and beloved R&B singers in the black community in America. Renee didn't imitate soul, she lived it. Her music touched the deepest wounds of racial pain that she had never experienced. But behind the sound was a fierce battle with the industry, with herself, and with drugs that took it all away when she was only 34. In 1981, Renee moved to the United States to pursue a career in Los Angeles. She was approached by R&B artists, sharing the stage with Chaka Khan and Stevie Wonder. But many American labels refused to invest long-term, despite the critical acclaim of her recordings. "The white audience didn't see her as their own," said one producer. "The black audience loved her, but the industry didn't want to sell a white soul singer." Renee was trapped in a gray area of the entertainment industry, where talent could not trump racial politics and the market. Her life behind the scenes became increasingly unstable. A former assistant recalled that Renee lived in her car for weeks after losing her record deal. She began using drugs, a temporary escape from the constant rejection. On her last night, she was found in a small Hollywood recording studio, lying motionless next to an electronic organ. The autopsy report listed acute reaction to an unknown substance. Her final recording, a cover of "I'd Rather Go Blind," was found incomplete. On it, Renee's voice breaks during the chorus. She was crying halfway through. The sound engineer recalled, she said, "This is the song I want to sing when no one wants me." Renee's death was not widely reported in the United States. The record labels to whom she had sent demos declined to comment. But in soul clubs in Chicago, Detroit, and New Orleans, where she had performed her music, is played every memorial. Renee did not die of weakness. She died because no one dared to accept her for who she was. And the question remains, how many voices will be buried because they don't fit the market skin tone? 8. Linda Jones, the girl who never wakes up after a love song. Linda Jones was the embodiment of pure soul. With her soaring, wind-whirling voice, she silenced audiences with songs about love and heartbreak. In 1967, she reached the top with Hypnotized. And it was believed that in just a few years, Linda would be sitting at the same table as Aretha Franklin, but in 1972, at the age of 27, she fell into a coma and never woke up. It was too quick, too unfair, and too shady. Linda was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in her teens, but the strange thing was, even when she was seriously ill, she was still required to continue touring, signing live gigs, and participating in promotional events without stopping. She once passed out backstage, but the manager only gave her a 10-minute break and then brought her back on stage, recalled a band member. That fateful night, Linda was in Newark, New Jersey, performing at a small church. Before singing, she said, "I feel tired, but this audience needs me." After the show, she lay down on a sofa in the waiting room and never woke up. Her family took her to the hospital in a deep coma. Doctors declared her diabetic complications, but did not explain why her insulin levels were so severely disturbed. Even though she had a caregiver with her, Orsu. Linda's mother later said she was forced to work. They said she would be replaced if she didn't perform. Linda sang until she died, and no one was held accountable. Some say her record label deliberately hid the extent of her illness so as not to lose contracts with promoters. There was no grand funeral, no memorial from the record label, but the soul community, those who knew Linda's true worth, still hear her voice every March, the month she left. Hypnotized is now the song of the conscious mourning of a soul who has slept forever. She once wrote in her diary, "I'm afraid to sleep, because I'm afraid I won't wake up without finishing the last verse." Linda Jones didn't get to finish the song of her life, but the audience will continue to sing the rest for her. 7. Florence Ballard, the ghost who was banished from the Hall of Fame. Florence Ballard was one of the 3 founders of the Supremes, the most powerful girl group of the 1960s, in the eyes of the audience. Diana Ross was the centerpiece, but to those in the industry, Florence was the real soul voice. She had inner strength, a raw charisma, and also a higher self-esteem than the entertainment industry would allow after being kicked out of the group. She fell into poverty, depression, and died of a heart attack at the age of 32. But everyone knew her heart had died long before that. Florence once denounced that she was forced out of the Supremes not because of a lack of talent, but because she refused to submit to the image strategy. She did not like to wear revealing clothes. She objected to the way Diana was favored. A Motown employee recalled Flo was summoned to a private meeting for daring to talk back to Berry Gordy. She was then replaced with another member without notice. She tried to launch a solo career, but was forbidden to use the Supremes name in her marketing. Some producers refused to sign her for fear of power struggles. For the last 6 years of her life, she lived on welfare, lost her home, and sold her belongings to support her 3 young daughters. On her last day, Florence collapsed in her rented apartment in Detroit. That night, she sang People to herself and then was silent for a long time. Her neighbor said, the hospital ruled a heart attack. But Florence's mother said, "My daughter died because she was deprived of what she loved most, the stage." No radio station played her recordings. No major newspaper articles. Diana Ross sent a wreath. Fans held small vigils, playing back the recording of Buttered Popcorn, her first lead song for the Supremes. Wow. Florence Ballard was not an anonymous ghost. She was the first soul to be banished from the spotlight for daring to demand justice. And if the world cannot give her justice in time, then at least we can keep that voice alive in every memory, every song, every story taught to the next generation. 6. Phyllis Hyman, the silent queen of songs. No one wants to listen to carefully. Phyllis Hyman was once known as the voice of loneliness with form, possessing a deep, husky mezzo-soprano voice, as plaintive as a midnight prayer. She never pursued an easy market. She sang painful love songs, singing about being left behind, forgotten, and hurt by the people she loved. Despite winning many awards, acting in movies, singing on Broadway, and signing a contract with Arista, Phyllis always had a distant sadness, as if knowing that the spotlight was just a sweet trap. On June 30th, 1995, hours before a performance at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis Hyman left a note in her New York hotel suite. "I've tried everything. Forgive me." She overdosed on barbiturates and lay on her side as jazz music blared. Her best friend, a bassist, was the first to find her body. Her face was serene, he said, but there were dozens of empty liquor bottles and a notebook with dozens of torn contracts. The media only reported one side singer Phyllis Hyman committed suicide due to depression. But insiders knew Phyllis was forced by the cold music industry to sing mediocre love songs, to live a bright life while her soul was broken. She once said in an interview at the end of her life, "I am not a diva. I am a wound that sings," many years before. She had been hospitalized in a mental hospital. But after her return, record companies were only interested in her weight, makeup, and youthfulness, instead of her music. People refused to listen to her when she was alive, but after her death, her music resonated more than ever. Phyllis Hyman's voice was the voice of those who always smiled amid pain, and her death is a reminder that behind a beautiful voice can be a soul screaming for help. 5. Dee Dee Warwick, the sister behind all the sadness. Dee Dee Warwick, sister of Dionne Warwick and cousin of Whitney Houston, once had a sweet voice and masterful technique, but unlike the other female members of that big soul family, Dee Dee did not have a bright halo. She was often left out when the media mentioned the legendary Warwick bloodline, but those who truly understood music knew she was the saddest soul of them all. Since the 1960s, Dee has been entangled in rumors about her sexual orientation, drug addiction, and the secrets behind her hidden relationships. A former manager of Mercury revealed that Dee had a relationship with a female singer at the same time, but that relationship was forced to end to maintain her market image after that shock. She turned to alcohol, tranquilizers, and lost interest in the stage. Her rising career quickly went downhill. Albums were canceled mid-production. Concerts were canceled. When she died in 1981 at the age of 35, only a few close friends knew. The press reported briefly Dee Dee Warwick died of heart complications, but relatives recalled that the night before. She had cried for a long time after watching a television show featuring Dionne and Whitney, where her name was not mentioned so much as a line. In her bedroom, they found a Bible, an unfinished recording, and an unfinished letter. Will anyone remember me when I am no longer anyone's shadow? Dee Dee was proof of a painful truth. Not everyone with talent is honored. There are voices buried simply because they do not live up to what the world wants them to. But in every note of Dee Dee's music is a silent cry for the presence of people who are considered marginal, but sing with the most genuine hearts. 4. Minnie Riperton, The Angels Didn't Have Time to Finish the Last Song. Minnie Riperton was once called the voice of heaven, with a soprano voice that could reach unimaginably high notes. She was dubbed the most extraordinary female singer of the 20th century. The song "Lovin' You" became a legend. But few people know that right after that moment, Minnie began a fierce battle with breast cancer. She passed away in 1979 at the age of 31, leaving a huge void that could not be filled in her music and the hearts of her loved ones, especially her young daughter, actress Maya Rudolph. In 1976, Minnie was diagnosed with terminal cancer, but instead of resting, she continued to record, tour, and even became a national ambassador for the anti-cancer campaign. But at press conferences, people often asked her about her hair, beauty, or husband, rather than about her music. Minnie said she didn't fear death as much as being forgotten, a close friend recalled. The night before she died, she recorded a demo of "Here We Go Again," a song that was never completed. In it, she whispered the first line, "If I disappear into a dream, keep this song." The next morning, she died in her husband's arms, surrounded by white flowers and unfinished music. Doctors said she died peacefully, but the nurse said she kept staring at the ceiling, saying, "Not done, I'm not done," after Minnie died. Many people regretted not appreciating her enough. She was one of the few artists who openly advocated for Black women's health in the entertainment industry. But the industry chose to ignore her presence. Her voice was timeless, but time did not allow her to live fully. Minnie Riperton spent her short life singing for a better world, and though she didn't finish her last song, we, the rest of us, can live as if we were that song. 3. Aaliyah, the girl who never became a legend. Aaliyah was only 22 when she left the world, but in that short time, she shaped a generation of modern R&B music with her sexy yet sophisticated style, her dreamy, breathy voice. Aaliyah was called the future queen of electronic soul, but what haunts people is her sudden death, in a suspicious plane crash, just as she was on the way to becoming a global icon. That day, August 25, 2001. Aaliyah had just finished filming a music video in the Bahamas. She and her crew hurriedly left the island because they were behind schedule. The old plane, overloaded with people and equipment, still took off at the request of her management. An airport employee later said that Aaliyah expressed concern and even asked to reschedule the flight, but was denied because it would not disrupt production. The flight lasted only a few minutes. The plane crashed and exploded. Everyone was killed. Aaliyah's body was found far from the wreckage, her back broken, still clutching the bag containing her new movie script. An investigation report confirmed that the pilot was not certified for night flying and showed signs of drug use. But no one was prosecuted. Aaliyah once wrote in her diary, "I found myself flying, light, away from this chaotic world." No one could have guessed that it was prophetic. She did not die from the fall, but because the industry forced her to fly before she was truly ready. And that voice, though silent, is still the heartbeat of those who once believed that lightness can be power. 2. Lorraine Ellison, the woman who sings like she's hurting to the bone. Lorraine Ellison was never a chart topper, but with one single song, "Stay With Me," she silenced the soul world. Her voice was said to be a storm of blood and tears, but after that brief flash of light, Lorraine gradually disappeared. When she died of pneumonia in 1975 at the age of 34, she was left with a shabby apartment and a drawer full of unsung songs. In a rare interview, Lorraine once shared, "Music didn't choose me to shine. It chose me to hurt," after "Stay With Me." The record label only wanted her to sing the same songs. She refused. They terminated her contract. She retreated to live with her mother, quietly wrote music, and made a living performing at small bars in the black neighborhoods of Philadelphia. On her last day, Lorraine had a bad cough but still refused to go to the hospital. A close friend recalled, she said, if she couldn't sing anymore, she would die. When people found her, the piano was still playing, the last piece of music was not finished, and the name of the song was "I Was Here." No memorial service was held, no newspaper reported, but those who heard her sing once will never forget. Lorraine didn't need to be famous. She needed to be remembered for her true pain. And now, every time Stay With Me is played, we hold on to the soul of a woman who sang to the point of breaking down. 1. Judy Clay, the first black woman to dare stand next to a white man on stage. Judy Clay is not a name that everyone knows, but she was a pioneer in the 1960s during the era of severe racial segregation. She became the first black female artist to dare to record a duet with a white male singer. Billy Vera. The love song Storybook Children was not only controversial, but also a courageous statement by a woman who wanted music to transcend race. Judy was not promoted by her record label like other artists of the time. Many radio stations refused to play the song. She was considered dangerous because of her intimate image with the white male singer. That pressure made her retreat. Later albums were delayed, tours were canceled, and her powerful voice gradually disappeared from the spotlight. In 1979, Judy Clay died of a stroke in her small apartment in Brooklyn. Next to her bed was a box of unopened letters, all invitations to perform at classical music tribute events. When they needed me to make history, I was a tool, her sister recalled. When I needed them to live, they disappeared. Her death was not widely reported, but for those who understood what was buried in American music. Judy was a trailblazer, not with a scream, but with a line singing alongside someone society told her she couldn't stand next to. And perhaps Judy Clay will never get enough recognition, but she didn't need that. She just needed a world where everyone could sing alongside anyone. No barriers, no skin color, just heart. We can't change their fate, but we can change the way we treat those who remain. Let's be gentler with the fragile souls, more patient with those who fight in silence. Every voice that passes is a lesson in how to cherish life and be compassionate. Thank you for joining us through these heartbreaking stories that need to be told. If you loved one of their songs, please like and share this video as a sweet farewell. Don't forget to comment with the artist you miss, because memories are the only thing death can't take away.